Minecraft is a game that has often been called too easy, but the people calling it too easy never really say why it is too easy. In this video, I'm going to detail a couple of ways to make the game harder, a couple of ways to make the game more realistic, more fun, and more survival-like. The first system I would like to talk about is the food system, specifically dealing with crops. Now, the main problem with crops right now is that you can essentially just place crops on the ground near water and they grow infinitely without any management. The system I would like to see put in place is maybe a system similar to Stardew Valley or Society Sunlit Valley, which is based on Stardew Valley, which is you basically just need a watering can and you need to water every day. Obviously, you could come up with crafting recipes for it and all that, but basically I think you should actually have to water your crops every day. The reason I think there's a need for this is that currently right now you can basically scale your farms up to as high of an amount that you want. You can say, oh, I have 500 potatoes, let me grow 500 potatoes. And at the end of the day, nothing's really going to stop you from doing that. None of the systems in the game make it that hard. However, if you had to go out there every day and actually water 500 potatoes, I think you would think, is this worth it? Again, the system in place doesn't ask you that question. It doesn't say, is it really worth spending your time every day on this? It just says, well, if you just place it here, I'll give you 500 potatoes. So, number one, I would suggest a watering can change to the crop system. Now, the second part of the food system that I would like to talk about is the animal food system. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with the crop system that I was just talking about, but the breeding recipes for these animals in order to essentially duplicate, I know it's a weird way to look at it, but that is what you're doing. You're duplicating an animal when you breed them. It costs 1 wheat per animal as far as cows and sheep go. I would like to see that upped from 1 to 9, whatever animal it may be. So if it's 1 wheat per cow, you change that to 9 with a hay bale. Same with sheep. Now, obviously, you'd run into a problem with chickens and pigs here because you can't make a carrot block and you can't make a seed block, but you'd have to find some sort of alternative. I think that would be fairly easy to do. The main problem I feel like with the breeding system is that you can essentially just infinitely scale these animals and there's no repercussions for it. There's no responsibility to feed. You don't have to feed these animals, you don't have to give them water, you don't have to give them shelter, you don't have to protect them from animals attacking them. So I would like to see some sort of system that either, changes the breeding recipe to make it a lot more extreme along with a crop change, or I think you could maybe just make a animal husbandry update where you actually have to take care of these animals, where, maybe if you're trying to have a cow grow up and give you steak, which is essentially what most people do, maybe if you're actually having to take care of it the entire time, and raise it to a mature state or something like that, maybe you're going to think about, do I really need 50 cows? So I guess maybe I would suggest decreasing the drop rate for cows that die under poor conditions, if they just die to hunger or die to thirst or not having shelter or whatever it may be. And then I think you could do that alongside changing the breeding recipe. I really do think one of those would work. I don't necessarily think you have to do both of them, but I do think both of them would be cool. And then there's just one more thing that I would like to add alongside that, which is I think you need to add a food spoilage system where basically, if you kill 50 cows at one time, which is what most people do, they breed all their cows up and then they get a looting sword and they kill all the cows all at once, and next thing you know, you have 3 stacks of steak in your inventory and you don't have to worry about food for the next 10 hours in the game or whatever it may be. I think food should spoil over time, and I think this would be a good way to introduce some sort of refrigerator type block in the game, kind of like a chest where you could just have a cold storage type situation where you just put it in there and it slows the decay rate or the spoilage rate of whatever you have. The next system I would like to talk about is the mining system. Now, alongside the video I did where I basically rushed to try and get food as quick as possible, I got that in about 30 minutes, I also did a rush to try and get diamond armor and tools as fast as I can. What I found is that it took me about 44 minutes, and I'm not a speedrunner, so obviously this can be done quicker. I found about 45 diamonds in 44 minutes. The main change I would like to highlight here is that back in the day, diamonds did used to be harder to find because the cave generation was not as good as it is now. Now you can just kind of walk into a cave, and because they're so vast and expansive, you can kind of just look around and see, oh, there's a diamond over there, there's one on the ceiling, there's one on the floor. Back in the day, caves didn't really used to be that big. They used to be kind of small. They used to just kind of be like these lava pits, basically. And you would have to find them, and then you'd have to mine around them. It's essentially the difference between strip mining and cave mining. Cave mining obviously is better. Back in the day, there wasn't really caves. So I would like to see maybe a decrease in the diamond spawn rate, I think. I think maybe it's a little outdated. I think they've just kind of made the game a little bit too easy to get late game in, like early. I think there's some value in having to use iron tools and like there being some meaning in having something outside of diamond. The only reason I really have iron tools is because I can't mine diamond without it. That it's not because diamonds are hard to find. It's just because I can't possibly get to diamond without iron. Now, the main problem I have with this is that it took me about a combined hour and 15 minutes to get to this stage where I have infinite food. And I'm not going to say with diamond tools that I have infinite tools, but if we're being honest, it is kind of like infinite tools, because the durability on diamond tools is so great. It kind of creates a situation where all you have to do is get mending and an anvil. Those two things are easy to achieve in the game. Mending, it might not be easy necessarily first try, but you will eventually get it as long as you're trying. Same thing with Unbreaking 3, you could just reroll trades on villagers to get it to that point. So I guess what I'm highlighting is that Minecraft is a game that is very easy to beat in a short period of time. Obviously, speedrunners do it in like this abnormal way. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you take the traditional path to trying to beat Minecraft, you will still beat it in a short amount of time. I think if you gave me probably 2 hours to beat Minecraft, I could do it. By doing it in traditional methods, like by getting full diamond armor, by raising a farm, by enchanting, whatever it may be. So I would just kind of like to see that change a little bit, and I think the mining system is one of those things because the caves, again, it's just really easy to find diamonds in. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my next topic here because it kind of blends into the mining conversation, which is enchants. Enchants, as far as looting goes, when you're using it on mobs to get more meat or whatever it may be, as far as eating goes, it makes that easier. It makes looting in general easier when you're killing creepers, skeletons, zombies, spiders, whatever it may be. And then fortune is the exact same way. So you already have a system in the game where finding base diamonds is easy. You can find about 45 of them in 44 minutes. However, if you get to the next stage of the game where you get fortune 3, you can turn that 45 into 4 times the amount. You're talking 160 diamonds just in 40 minutes. I mean, there's no difficulty in that system. There's no struggle in that system. So I would honestly like to see fortune, looting, I think, and mending, and also the elytra. I would like to see all of them moved behind a wall, basically, of needing to beat all of the bosses in Minecraft. I'd like you to have to beat the Warden, the Ender Dragon, the Wither, the Elder Guardian. I'd like you to have to get drops from all those and then put it in some sort of crafting recipe, and you get one of them. I think these enchants are extremely OP, and they have not been addressed. The next system I would like to talk about here is the traversal system. This is mainly about how the elytra has made all the other systems essentially useless. Now, I get what you may be saying of, oh, you don't get the elytra immediately. You don't instantly get it. However, I have just outlined in multiple different ways how easy it is to beat the game quick. So you get to the elytra a lot quicker than you used to be able to get to it. The main thing is you see a system like the minecart system and you think, oh, that's really cool. I can make like this like a roller coaster type invention. I can like connect bases, I can connect farms, I can, connect to different parts of the world. However, if you're thinking down the line, oh, well, I'm eventually going to get an elytra, why would you build a minecart system if you know you're going to get an elytra? A minecart system, it takes time to build. You have to excavate if you're going underground. You have to get a decent amount of gold, a decent amount of iron, some redstone. You have to build out the platforms. You have to set up the redstone, make sure that all the torches are in the right spot. You have to do all this stuff, put in all this effort. When you get the elytra, all you need is a firework, and you can essentially launch there. And you can also go in all these different directions, go up and down. The elytra is so good, it makes all these other systems meaningless. The horses in the game. Horses are already kind of a pain because of how they interact in water. It's not really worth using. You have to put them in a boat if you want to travel across these big bodies of water. It's just not really worth it. Boats are nice, but again, they're really situational. They're only for when you're trying to cross big bodies of water or like smaller bodies of water that do not connect. So you have all these systems, and then you also have the ice highway. The ice highway is primarily used in the nether. You can use it in the overworld to move like long distances very fast. The problem with that, again, the setup time it takes compared to just using an elytra is extreme. You can literally just fly wherever you want. You can go off the beaten path, and with the ice highways, you have to set up, essentially, it doesn't have to be a straight line, but if it's not a straight line, it's going to take you some time to make an ice highway. So I guess my problem with the elytra and the traversal system in the game is you have this one thing that makes every other system in the game pointless. You might as well not even have minecarts, horses, and boats. Maybe not boats, but at least minecarts and horses and ice highways, they are kind of useless because of this. The next issue I want to talk about is world size. Now, this is a smaller issue compared to the other ones, but I remember back in the day, and I know this sounds like, again, oh, I want things to be the way they used to be. But back in the day, world sizes on Pocket Edition and Xbox 360 were limited. And those worlds to me always felt the most valuable because the land I was on, it was not infinitely generated. It was not this thing that was infinitely expanding and, oh, if I just want to be in a different world, I can just walk long enough and I won't even be able to, recognize anything new that's generating. However, I felt like, again, there's this extra value, this extra meaning with these worlds when they are limited. It lets you know that you have to make do with the space you have instead of always knowing that there's a better place out there. There's a better valley, there's a better waterfall, there's a better whatever it may be. Now, obviously with this, you would need to guarantee a certain amount of biomes spawn in this world, so it'd have to be like a decent size. You wouldn't want to miss out on gameplay elements due to the world being too small, but I think worlds should be finite because infinite worlds lack interest, they lack meaning, they lack value. I don't know. I don't like the idea of an infinite world. So yeah, I would suggest lowering the world size to an amount that is not small, but is also not infinite. Now, the last issue I'd like to highlight is kind of a culmination of everything I've talked about in this video, and it's something that I like to call the infinite problem. Minecraft over the years has shifted all of these systems in a way that it creates these infinite feedback, infinite loot, infinite whatever it may be. You have infinite crops where you can essentially place as many of them as you want and you don't have to water them. You have infinite livestock where they live infinitely without you having to manage them. You have infinite durability with mending where once you get the mending enchant, you basically don't have to make another pickaxe, another sword, another piece of armor, whatever it may be. You have infinite world expansion where, oh, if you don't like your current area, well, guess what? You can literally travel as long as you want and you'll keep getting new areas. You have essentially infinite travel with the elytra because there's no limitation to it. You're going at a very high speed. You're able to go in any direction, up and down. You don't really need to set up infrastructure in order to travel that fast. So again, I think there's just a lot of issues with the game that are infinite that could be removed. And to me, when you say, I want to play survival, I think of maybe like the way the forest is, where you're having to survive out in the wild, or maybe some of these mod packs. I don't think of Minecraft survival as survival, actually, because you're not really having to do it for more than about an hour and a half. Once you get past that hour and a half, you probably have diamonds and you probably have food. So yeah, you might be having to survive against mobs and against mob bosses, but you're not having to survive against the elements. You're not having to survive against weather. You're not having to survive against thirst. You're not having to survive against growing crops, managing animals. There's none of that management aspect to it. So again, I would just like to see survival become more survival. When you look at the way that survival is today, it really is just a short struggle period, and then you go into creative. If you know what creative is, you essentially have infinite durability because you don't have any tools. You just have a hand that infinitely mines. So you have infinite durability with that. You have infinite, traveling with the way that you're able to fly around. Well, you're not far from that with the way that the elytra works. So again, you get to a point where it's like you can fly, you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about durability. You basically end up getting into creative in survival. So I would like to see survival become more about survival and less about speedrunning the same mechanics and then being in creative. So that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoy. I would like to hear you guys' suggestions. I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on my suggestions. Do you think Minecraft is too easy, or do you think it's fine the way it is? I'd like to highlight Minecraft is my favorite game of all time. I am saying all these things about it, but it is still my favorite game of all time. I'm going to look into making a mod pack for this sort of thing. It's just a little difficult because these are very specific things that I want added or changed, and without being able to make mods myself, I have to find people that have already made these, and they have them. They're just scattered across different mod launchers and versions and whatever it may be. So I will look into creating kind of what I'm talking about, and if I create a good version of it, I might make a video talking about it. But anyway, that's just me voicing my opinions on Minecraft. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.